Hi guys, welcome back. Today we are going to learn how to find turning points by completing the square. We've got 3 success criteria, and the first one is to be able to complete the square. So completing the square means to put a quadratic expression into this form. So for example, if we want to write x squared plus 8x minus 8 in completing the square form, we first of all half the coefficient of x. So half of 8 is 4, and that's the number that goes inside the bracket. Now that bracket is squared, so what we've got to do is we've got to change that minus 8 and we take away 4 squared. So the number inside the bracket squared. So 4 squared is 16, and minus 8 take away 16 is minus 24. So in completing the square form, we've got x plus 4 squared minus 24. Here's a question for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to see what you should have done, press play. So here, for this question, we halve the coefficient of x. So half of 10 is 5, and that's the number that's going to go inside the bracket. So we have x plus 5 squared. Then we've got plus 4 on the outside of the bracket, and we need to take away the number inside the bracket squared. So we take away 5 squared. Now 5 squared is 25. We need to take away 25 from 4. And 4 take away 25 is minus 21. So our answer is x plus 5 squared minus 21. Now when we want to put an equation or an expression into completing the square form, and there's a coefficient of x squared, so in this case the coefficient of x squared is 3, we first need to factorise it with that number on the outside of the bracket. So if we factorise it with 3 on the outside of the bracket, we get 3 brackets x squared plus 2x minus 6. Then we can just ignore the 3 on the outside of the bracket for now and do completing the square for what's inside the bracket. So we half 2, which is 1, and then we need to change the minus 6. So 1 squared is 1, so minus 6 take away 1 is minus 7. And then we just multiply through by 3. So we've got 3 lots of x plus 1 squared, and minus 7 times 3 is minus 21. Here are some questions for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to mark your work, press play. Here are your answers. So there's your green answers, there's your amber answers, and there's your red answers. And now we've completed success criteria 1. Now we're going to move on to success criteria 2, which is to solve equations by completing the square. So we want to solve this quadratic by completing the square. So this means giving our answer in surd form. So if we start by putting it into completing the square form, like so, and then add 12 to both sides. So we've got x plus 3 squared equals 12. Then square root both sides. So x plus 3 equals the square root of 12. Remember, the square root of 12 can be positive or negative. And then subtract 3 from both sides. So x equals minus 3 plus or minus the square root of 12. Now, the square root of 12 can be simplified because the square root of 12 is the square root of 4 times 3. And the square root of 4 is 2. So the square root of 12 is 2 root 3. So we can write our answer as minus 3 plus or minus 2 root 3. Here's a question for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to see what you should have done, press play. So for this question, if we start by completing the square, and then we're going to add 14 to both sides. So x plus 4 squared equals 14. Then square root both sides. So x plus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 14. And then subtract 4 from both sides. So x equals minus 4 plus or minus the square root of 14. Again, in this question, if there's a coefficient of x squared, that means we can divide through by that coefficient first. So if we divide both sides by 2, and then use completing the square, add 10 to both sides, then square root both sides, and then take 2 off both sides. So x equals minus 2 plus or minus the square root of 10. Here are some questions for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to mark your work, press play. Here are your answers. There's your green answers. There's your amber answers. There's your red answers. And there's your purple answers. And now we've completed success criteria 2. So now we're going to move on to success criteria 3, and this is to use completing the square to find the turning point of a quadratic graph. So the turning point of a quadratic graph is where the graph changes direction, and a quadratic graph will always have one turning point. So it'll always be either a U-shape or an upside down U-shape. If the turning point is the highest point, then this is called the maximum. If the turning point is the lowest point, then this is called a minimum. So after completing the square, you can find the turning point of a quadratic Because the number inside the brackets, you'll need to change the sign, and that's the x-coordinate of the turning point. And the number on the outside of the bracket, you leave the sign as it is, and that's the y-coordinate of the turning point. So we swap the sign for the number inside the bracket, but we keep the sign for the number outside the bracket. For example, if I want to find the turning point of this curve with the equation x squared minus 10x plus 4, if I use completing the square, that means its turning point will have an x-coordinate of 5 and a y-coordinate of minus 21. So remember, this is where the curve changes direction, so it'll be the lowest point of the curve. Always remember to change the sign of the number inside the bracket. Here's a question for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to see what you should have done, press play. So for this question, if we use completing the square, so we get x minus 2 squared minus 9. That means the curve will have a turning point of 2 minus 9. Here are some questions for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to mark your work, press play. Here are your answers. So there's your green answers. There's your amber answers. And there's your red answers. And now we've completed success criteria 3. So now that we've completed the final objective, it's time to end the video. Hope you enjoyed it and hope you found it useful. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. See ya.